Hi, Al Stasek with Win Before You Start. Thanks for coming back to my video blog. Today I'm going to share something very special with you. I had the unique privilege of being interviewed by one of my coaches, mentors, and a very close friend, Michael Reese. He is a best-selling author. He's the founder of the National Association of Expert Advisors and Kinder Reese Real Estate. And this interview, Mike holds nothing back, and neither do I. I hope that you get some value out of it. I hope you get a nugget out of it. It's from A to Z, from my beginnings to where we're at today, and our plans even for the future of step by step by step, what it took for me to go from selling 30 houses to over 200 houses in a year. I hope you get some value out of it. Enjoy.
All right, welcome NAEA members to another great call. This month we have one of my not only colleagues and one of our coaches, but also a dear friend, somebody who has been a student of the game when it comes to building their real estate business. I don't want to uncover too much, just to give everybody a clear understanding of if you are looking to grow your business and you really want to understand some of the challenges that you are going to go through and how to overcome those challenges. My goal today is to introduce to you and unpack some of those ideas, some of those principles, and some of the things that you should consider as you look out towards the horizon of taking your business to the next level, because this gentleman is the epitome of growing the real estate business. He has grown his business exponentially. That could be the definition. And, I just really, without further ado, Al Stasek, are you there, Al?
I am, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, listen, I really want to thank you first and foremost in advance for taking the time to jump on today's call to record this for our members as a way of giving back. I know you like to really help people. In fact, I saw your post, if you will, for your internal 90-day success plan that you were doing for your team. But I know you probably didn't have those systems in the beginning when you first started. Why don't you give everybody kind of an idea of who you are, how you got into real estate, where you were, and really let's take them through your journey into where you are now.
Yeah, sure. I started at a pretty young age. I was 25 years old. I'm out of Cleveland, Ohio market, and my father was a realtor when I was growing up. He was doing it part-time. He had a full-time dock job, and he would come home and shower, eat, put on his suit, and go out and sell homes. Or if he didn't have appointments, he would cold call street after street after street in his office. And I remember sitting next to him listening to those calls, how painful it was, because it was just right out of what they called a Haynes directory. I don't even know if they still have those now, but he would just call, he'd do one street at a time, and he'd call both sides of the street until he was done. And I just remember him getting hung up on, people being rude to him, and I think I decided at that point I never wanted to be a realtor, but it's just funny how things work out, I ended up going to the same brokerage he did after I had a career as a truck driver, decided that wasn't for me, and got my real estate license, went into the same brokerage that my dad was at the time. I ended up hitting Rookie of the Year that year and stayed for maybe another year, but it was kind of an older, dinosaur-like type of office. They weren't interested in anything new, and technology scared them. So I helped start a discount company with a friend of mine back in 2000, and then started my team in 2007 with RE/MAX. Since then, we've opened our own brokerage this year, and so that's kind of like the summary of it.
No, I love it. I mean, it's a success story. Why don't you kind of tell us, what were your challenges and what made you, I guess, what made you successful? I mean, Rookie of the Year, that's an accomplishment no matter where you are, because there's so many things that you're going through your first year. What things did you have to figure out quickly? And then let's kind of roll into what other things you learned along the way.
Well, that's kind of the funny part about it, Mike, is that, the Rookie of the Year thing, I really just think that purely just came from will. It certainly wasn't from environment. It was just from pure will that happened. And, I was sitting open house, sitting on floor time, kind of just doing the things that, the guys in the office whose average age was, let's just say, more than double mine, that's all they knew. They didn't know any other way to success, so I just did that. And so within that first year, I was, just sitting open houses, floor time, had a couple referrals, and then I started reaching out. There was a coach who would advertise a lot in the Realtor magazine, and I bought that thing in a box, and it was, I was always trying to seek new ideas and whatnot, and it was good. It was probably better than how I utilized it, but I didn't know how to utilize it. It was just basically, here it is. And so I did that for a while, and it caused a few sales, but ultimately, when I started the discount company, I kind of dropped all of that and really just focused on that, which, the market started picking up, and it wasn't that difficult to sell a home in that hot market, and especially when you're charging a lot of money and you're a discounter. That's basically your value proposition.
What inspired you to, go the discount broker route? And obviously you're the furthest from a discount broker now. Can you kind of talk to anybody who might be on here, just, share some of the insight that you learned through that journey of going that route for a little while?
Yeah, sure. Well, it was year 2000, and it was right around the time when listings all started going on Realtor.com and the internet, and everyone thought that the sky was going to fall on realtors. And so, one of my friends who I went to college with, he was already with a discount broker and wanted to start his own thing. And, we figured that, it was all about the internet, and it was a business model that we could make profitable and have fun with. And again, we were so young, we didn't really know the difference anyway, so we just kind of went for it. And what I found was, after, 5-6 years, I found that we were constantly chasing clients, constantly having to refill our pipeline with new buyers and sellers, because there weren't a lot of referrals, because the level of service was so poor. And when you don't have enough revenue coming in, you can't afford the staff to, manage all the variables. And, just like I said, it was just basically some people were happy, but that business model attracted a type of client. And what I decided in 2006 was, that wasn't the type of client I wanted to work with, and I wanted to work with people who appreciated the value that we bring. And I just something clicked, and I knew that I needed to go in a different direction, and that's when I started Stasek Group in 2007.
Okay, so you started the Stasek Group, and where was that at? What was fundamentally different between the Stasek Group as far as the structure? What changes took place?
Well, for me, I knew that, at the time, I thought I knew more than I did about internet leads, about generating leads, about converting leads. I had forgotten that for the last 6 years of my career, our whole value proposition was just, we charged less, so go with us. And so I had a big wake-up in 2007. The market started to dip in Cleveland. It didn't get any better in 2008. And those, my first 2 years of starting with my team, I ended up going into a lot of debt, bought websites that were terrible, and on top of that, didn't know what to do with them. I really didn't have any guidance. And, I had to figure some stuff out on my own and, like I said, spend money that I didn't have. And so that's how it started. It didn't start very good. I was starting to question myself a lot, especially when 2008 we couldn't sell a house and the market was just so tough. The bills were rolling in. I had RE/MAX fees that had to be paid whether I sold a house or not. So my credit card got racked up to like $40,000. I'd never been in so much debt in my life. And it was an ugly, ugly start. I got to tell you, it wasn't pretty. Thankfully, in I think 2009, maybe it was beginning of 2010, I can't remember the exact date, I saw one of Jay's for sale by owner videos, and I went out and I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And I went out and listed a couple. I'm like, man, that worked. And so then signed up for I think the Rockstar level coaching, and then within like 2 months I had an ISA working from home, setting me up on listing appointments. And pretty much from there, that's when the story gets better. It's been all uphill from there, or downhill, however you want to say.
Well, tell us about this. I mean, what was the fundamental shift in your thinking there?
For me, it was I had done, and again, I'm not picking on any other. There's a lot of good coaching companies out there. I had done a program that I thought was pretty good, and that was all about referral. And that was I just felt that I was working that the best I could with RE/MAX, because RE/MAX supported it. And but I knew that it was one-dimensional. I just felt that there was still a gear left in my business that I wasn't hitting, and that I wasn't going to hit if I stayed there. And like I said, I don't know how I got on the list, but I got that video. That video, people could say that it's, one little video is insignificant. In my opinion, it was very significant, even though it was only about one little technique. It pulled me in because I could just tell right off the bat it was people, like-mindedness. So I was attracted to that type of training. I dig further and further, and what I found was that the further I got into, at the time it was Michael Reese, before NAEA was formed, I found that this was a company that was more along the lines of building a business. And yes, it taught you how to be a better salesman, taught you how to be a better real estate agent, taught you how to be a better lister, presenter, and all that. But the underlying principle for me that was just it was just an immediate connection was the fact that now it's time to build a business around all of those other things. And I think that was it.
So tell me about, you said downhill, uphill. What did you mean by, how did it go all downhill from there? Can you be a little bit more specific?
Yeah, sure. What I meant by it was that it was all, all downhill, meaning it was in a positive way. I didn't mean it in a good way. I didn't know how to describe it. Lost for words. Once that happened, I started implementing things, one little thing at a time. First it was the ISA. Before that it was one technique I learned about how to convert a for sale by owner into a listing and how to gain the trust at the listing appointment. After I converted the ISA, I added another lead generator that I learned through the network, Michael Reese, and there were these building blocks that started to all of a sudden my business started to gain momentum. And I really, to be honest with you, I wasn't even ready for it because I didn't have the staff. I didn't have all of the tools that I needed to manage a growing business like that. So at first, I still had to, I was winging it a little bit, and then we were introduced to the straight line plan. We started doing strategic planning for the year. Then we broke it down. We're doing it quarterly. Then and now we do our strategic plans religiously quarterly. We meet weekly about what's going on and monthly about what's going on in the quarter with my staff. And I can't see running my business any other way. In fact, I know that I wouldn't be able to run it if I didn't have that structure. And I think when I'm saying everything went downhill from there, our transactions started going up. Things started getting more structured. I started attracting. I've never been a real good recruiter. It's just never been, I don't know, I shouldn't say that I wasn't a good one. It's just never something I focused on. So almost every single person, 99% of the agents that work for me, they came to me. They were referred to me, or they saw something was going on, and they came to join me. And I had learning blocks along the way with that, because I was probably hiring the wrong people here and there, just because I was excited somebody wanted to join me. But that all got evened out eventually too.
So can you kind of tell us your production and with this timeline we're going through here? From how did your production get affected? And I know you probably don't know to the transaction, but just kind of give us a range. It sounds to me, and I'll just steal something from Jim Collins. He said that if he could interview every successful business person at the Inc. at the end of their career, that and actually ask them the question, what 10 decisions over your career impacted your success the most? He said that he would be certain that 7 of the 10 decisions they made over their career would have been people decisions, hiring decisions. And it sounds to me like when you said all downhill, you actually hired someone, an inside salesperson. Can you speak to, I know when I hired my first person, that mindset shift, and the second person, can you talk to just the audience here about, what thoughts you had to go through to really, decide to make that investment, and how the investing in people to help you with, taking your business to where you wanted to take it, how that impacted your growth?
Yeah, sure. So I think the question you asked is what made me just make the decision to hire that person versus kind of like riding the fence and not doing it, or am I wrong on that, Mike?
Yeah, so when I hired my first person, and I know when Jay hired John, I almost didn't see how I was going to afford to do it, but I pulled the trigger. So many people, you've been doing this, for you it's been a long time now, but if you could take yourself back to that, there's someone on this call that's thinking about hiring an ISA or hiring their first assistant. From going from solo practitioner to help, can you kind of talk through that leap that you had to make and how, taking on that risk affected your business?
Oh, yeah, sure. At first, I'll take you back before the ISA, because that was my first assistant. I hired her, and I made some serious mistakes, but they were based off of the fear of bringing someone on and paying them a regular paycheck and a payroll at what you would consider, a market-based wage. And I thought that paying her on a contingency basis, based off of like 10% of the gross revenue that came in, per deal, was a safer bet for me, and it was at the beginning. And I'm not telling anyone on this call to do that. If you start coming, clipping along at a good rate and selling lots of houses, which you will, if you follow the roadmap the right way, you'll end up overpaying people quick, and that's exactly what happened to me. I picked an assistant. I didn't interview her correctly. I did a lot of things the wrong way. She wasn't a core value fit, and she was getting paid almost twice as much as you would someone in that position. But I had to do that at the time because it was what I had to do. And so what I did was, when I figured that it was time to make a change because there wasn't a core value fit, I made sure I had enough core capital saved, that I had 3-4 months of paychecks for someone that I would normally just hire and go for it. The other thing that was for me, that helped me get over that hump of just going ahead and doing it was I think of, what if I don't? For me, everything, people are motivated by different things. I started getting motivated by, well, what if I don't do this? I'm still going to be caught in the merry-go-round of, the paperwork I shouldn't be touching, for an ISA, it's the follow-up on all those leads that I should be, my highest and best use. I knew, it was clear to me, after I started coaching, what my highest and best use was, where I needed to be, and that was in the car on the way to appointments in front of sellers, converting listing appointments into listings. I knew that became clear. And once that became clear, that I knew that's where I needed to be, I needed someone else in the background. It wasn't an option anymore. It really became evident that that's what I need to do. And if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have a life, because I'd be working 14 hours a day, and that wouldn't be good for my family. It wouldn't be good for my marriage. My kids wouldn't see me. And so things start to become more clear, and that, for me, that's what it was.
Awesome. So you make this switch. You hire the ISA. If you had to say one thing, where at the ISA, what was the one thing that, if you had to say over the last, when you were doing 1/10 of what you're doing now, what was the one thing that, looking back, saying, man, if I wouldn't have done that, I probably wouldn't have been able to really, looking back, I probably wouldn't have been able to accomplish all the greatness I accomplished. What is that one thing for you?
Well, in regards to the ISA, I mean, that really was, when I look back, and if I just had to pick out, the most important hire that really started to move the pendulum farther to the other side, it was the ISA. And I got to tell you, I wasn't good. I just got lucky in finding the one I did, because she had just come off of working for a mortgage company where she was calling, just raw leads that the mortgage companies were buying for refinances, and she was getting people on the phone and getting them to give her everything, their date of birth, social security number, full name, whatever. I mean, she was that good, and she had left that shop and was looking. I'm like, well, if you can do that, then you can talk a for sale by owner and having me come over to their house. And she's like, yeah, that's easy. So I got real lucky, because she did think it was easy, and she did get me in lots of appointments, and that was the big game. That was the one thing that moved the pendulum for me, because I found that I was on appointments all the time. My week started filling up with appointments, and I had zero time to run buyers. So it forced me to try and find a buyer's agent, a couple buyer's agents actually, to handle all the excess leads that were coming in, because there was no way I could run them and go on all these listing appointments.
That's awesome. So then to dovetail that, because there's going to be some people that have that ISA, what was the second thing?
Well, the second thing was, once we got, again, I guess if I had to just say one other thing other than that, and this is probably moving a little further into the future, if that's okay, would be the decision to open up a satellite office and take my team out of the environment of the current RE/MAX office I was in. I liked everyone in that office. They were nice people, but none of them aligned with our culture. There was, even though I liked them, I'm not so sure how many of them liked me. There was some animosity and some drama that we could have done without, and I started noticing it happening more and more, and it wasn't conducive to our team's flow either. So, I made the decision, which was a big one for me, to make the investment in opening a satellite office, still under the RE/MAX brokerage, and we've been there for about a year and a half. It'll be 2 years this January we've been there. I would say that that was another huge, because from there we didn't have any outside distractions, and it allowed us to mesh even closer as a team versus trying to tiptoe around a bunch of independent RE/MAX agents who had their own agenda, and it was almost like, oh, well, we can't have a meeting because we're being too loud in this room, whatever. It really was, I have to say, in the ladder of our climb here, that was probably another huge milestone as far as our business is concerned.
That's awesome, man, and I really appreciate you. So, I didn't hear you say anything about lead generation, because it sounds to me like you were going after the FSBOs expires, a low-cost, no-cost shoestring budget. At what point in growing your business did lead generation, generating leads, become important? And can you talk to that? Because ultimately there's so many people that think it's, if I had more leads, my business would grow. And it is part of what we consider the exponential growth formula. But specifically are the 5 ways to grow your business. You can increase lead production. At what point did, leads have an important part to play in your business? And can you share anything with the listener, how you kind of, I guess, approached that that opportunity to take your business to the next level?
Sure. Well, back when we were still at the RE/MAX office, we had climbed up to myself, an assistant, and 2 buyers agents, and I knew I needed more leads. We purchased a lead generator back then that it really didn't have a back-end CRM to it, so the leads were just kind of going haphazardly out to all 3 of us, and there was no organization whatsoever to it. Soon after that, we knew that, well, we found a better system in Boomtown, and we went ahead and bought a Boomtown system, and that was a huge game changer. We brought on a couple more agents at the same time, and that system was great. And now we do all of our lead generating, or I should say at least our internet leads, all through Commissions Inc., which we find is the best system. It integrates with Infusionsoft, and my agents love it, and they're constantly innovating the back end of it. Mike, to be honest, you asked me about lead generation. That was the most important thing, if not the number one thing, was lead generation 24 months ago, and maybe even up until earlier this year. It was all about generating leads. And we came to a point where we got that down pat. Leads at this point are not hard to generate. Anyone that has a good site, whether it's Commissions Inc. or what have you, you're going to be able to generate leads. The key that's turned for this year was conversion. So we're not even focused on lead generation anymore, because that machine just cranks for us automatically. We've done a pretty good job with generating leads through a print magazine that we use for seller leads. We also have, we have Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com that all flow into our Infusionsoft application. So the leads are generating. That's really not our focus anymore, because now we have that figured out. Now it's about conversion, and that's really 100% of my focus is on holding people accountable to conversion, training them to be better converters, because we found that we could keep generating 600 leads, whatever, per month, but if we're not converting on them, not only are we losing money on the money that we're spending on the leads, but we're losing money and not converting them, so the ROI goes down. So that's kind of what it's about for us now, is the accountability is all about conversion.
I love conversion, man, and that's you're speaking the right language here. For those of you that may not know, Commissions Inc. is a tool. You can go to Commissions Inc. If you're an NAEA member, they'll definitely take care of you. If you're coming to EGS, you're going to be in for a real treat. I won't. That's really all I'm going to say. As far as a lot of people on this call are wanting to get listings. So you said listings. You said leads weren't a problem. Can you be more specific? Can we kind of talk about from a listing perspective? You know, what are the things that you're doing right now? Or what would you recommend to somebody if they were wanting to increase their listings? Because I hear it from so many people, especially when they get their certified home selling advisor designation, they're ready to hit the ground running. With knowing what you know about the market today and the things that you've learned, because I know you're a student and you are constantly picking up the most innovative things that are going on, what would you tell someone if they're wanting to grow their listing inventory to do?
Well, the first thing I tell them to do is to hire an ISA. And, you know, I hear it all the time. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I don't have the money to hire one. I mean, in my opinion, if you want to grow your listing inventory, you need to be on appointments. And if you need to be on appointments, you have one or two choices. You can either time block 2 to 3 hours every single day, and make those appointments, which there's nothing wrong with that. But there comes to a point where, you know, again, going back to the burnout factor, I used to make those calls myself too, and those are the lowest hanging fruit, and you should be knocking those out first. So that's my first advice would be master the phone and then hire an ISA to master the phone for you so that you can be out in front of people, meeting people face-to-face, and growing your listings. When you've exhausted that, or if you're in a market where expireds aren't very plentiful or for sale by owners are not very plentiful, I like I said, I kind of throw back. I haven't advertised in the newspaper in years, but I found a just very local paper that goes to every household. It goes to about 100,000 households in my market, and it's targeted to a certain demographic. And I don't recreate the wheel, Mike. I just use the stuff that you and Jay created, and I put it in the form of an informational, it's a very value-packed article that reads like an article, and at the end just tells people, you know, it'll talk about maybe one of the 7 laws and how they can sell for up to 18% more money. And everyone wants, I don't know one home seller, I've never met one who wouldn't love to sell for up to 18% more money. I mean, it's like, you know, I haven't heard that one time. So being that that's the case, that I don't know anyone who doesn't want more money for their house, people, you know, they read, and it's just the way you position yourself in front of them as an expert advisor, and as having the key to the vault, or the answer to the secret of how to sell for top dollar, and that's what a lot of our leads come from. And you know, so we spend a little money on that, no doubt, but you can start small. So find something you can start small and build up to it. I mean, that's what I say. I would never jump into something where you're spending, you know, $5,000 right off the bat unless you have the core capital to spend it. I've worked my way up to this, and then when we've exhausted our opportunities there, we found another opportunity in radio, and you know, we advertise with Rate and Glenn Beck, and he's in our market, so that drives a lot more seller leads in. So because again, now it's not about lead generation. I mean, we can always expand lead generation, you know, with money as far as listings. Now it's about converting them at the highest rates, and yeah. I hope that answers your question.
That was perfect, dude. I mean, you know, I think that you definitely have, I think, brought a lot to the table here when it comes to helping people. So, if you will, you know, I know your business has grown. Can you kind of just kind of explain, and this is, you know, in 30 seconds or less, how your business has grown over the last 36 months? Kind of, you know, I was doing this 3 years ago, this 2 years ago, this last year. Or, you know, this is what I'll do this year. Give us, because I want the listener to get a real good idea of, you know, the kind of growth you've been experiencing. And then I would like to wrap it up with what you've learned. You know, what have you learned about growing a business or running a real estate business or building a team or going independent? What have you learned? What are the things you learned that you wish someone would have told you 3 years ago?
All right, sure. You know, in 2009, just to give you, I guess, our transaction numbers, I don't have the exact number in front of me right now, but I believe it was somewhere probably around 45 transactions maybe, and there were 2 of us. 2010, I believe, is when I started implementing. We went to 83 transactions. In 2011, we did 138 transactions. In 2012, we did 170, and we'll do 200 this year. The bigger, I guess, thing to watch isn't so much number of transactions, but what also increased was our GCI, because like you had mentioned earlier on the call, we've grown exponentially. We've not only grown in number of transactions, but our average sales price has gone up. Last year it was like 156. The year before that it was 130 something, 39. So it went from 139 to 156 to it's sitting at 198 for this year, and we'll do over $1 million in GCI for the first time. So I'm super stoked about that. Just, it was one of those things like I looked at from the horizon a few years ago and thought, man, one day, and I just kept my head down, and next thing you know, it does appear, and it's because I wasn't necessarily focused on that $1 million. I was just focused on, the little steps, and I opened my eyes up one day and I'm like, wow, we're gonna hit that. So that was cool. And there was a second part to your question. You wanted me to go over my transaction.
Yeah, I just wanted you. I just know that if I could go back in time and tell myself or teach myself something, what would you, knowing what you've known now on the journey, what all the things you've learned, what's the one thing that you wish you would have known 3 years ago before you really started ramping things up? What was that big thing?
For me, my fear lied in expenses. And I still don't like expenses. I don't know anybody who loves expenses, So what it did was it would hold me back from, either hiring a personal coach or going to that seminar or, and flying there, because that's an expense. If I could have just looked through a magic portal and saw the future, I would have hired a coach a long time ago. And it's not just the coaching. For me, it's been the circle of like-minded professionals that do the same thing we do every day, day in, day out, that have actually become my friends, close friends. And for me, that's awesome. It's almost like having a life outside of Cleveland, and I love it. And I can look myself in the eye and say, I know I wouldn't be here without the help, support, and knowledge of all the group. Really, it's the group that the people that I've met through Kinder Reese and the organization was not to overuse the term game changer, but really in the end of the day it was. And so that's what I would have done. I would have just trusted it a lot earlier and not been worried about it, because the return on the investment the first year I started with coaching, it was just something stupid. It was like 400, 500% or something like that. It's something that I'm pretty sure anyone listening would love to have a return on their dollar. So that's what it would be.
Well, man, we definitely appreciate that, and definitely, you are a doer, an action taker. I love watching your videos. If you want to, Al's actually got a pretty awesome video that tells his story on YouTube. How would someone go see some of those videos? You just shot so many amazing videos about, with your team and stuff like that. Some of these people haven't had a chance to be at boot camp and see them. Where would they go find those? Or do you have a place that you can send them?
Yeah.
Or?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, there's 2 places they could go. The easiest would be to go to our website, searchhomesinCleveland.com, and that's our Commissions Inc. site, but we actually put a link to our videos on it, and so you can see them all there, and you can also just go to YouTube and type in Real Expert Advisors, and there's a channel for Real Expert Advisors in there, and you'll find all 11 of our videos. And the one that Mike's talking about is it says documentary, or it might say short documentary. But yeah, go on and check them out. I hope you love them. I hope you get some value out of them, and hope it inspires you to get out and crush it.
Well, man, I look forward to seeing you at the next Exponential Growth Summit, and I really appreciate, or the next boot camp. I know you're very proactive in keeping yourself trained and your team trained. And man, I appreciate you being out there and being so visible and vocal on raising the professionalism of our industry and being a part of the National Association of Expert Advisors. And most importantly, just sharing, pulling back the curtain, lifting up the hood, if you will, and sharing with everybody a little bit about your journey on what you had to do and the things that you went through to take your business to the level you have. You've done great things, and we're just so happy to be a part of that. So anyway, that's all we have for today. Thanks for taking the time as well, you the listener, for either putting this into your CD player or downloading it to your iPod, however you decided to consume this information. This is where it all starts. This information will help you, because it will help you change the way that you think. I know that my biggest decisions or choices that I've made have come as a result of the way that I've interpreted information, and that interpretation a lot of the times comes as a result of the way that the things that I've consumed over my years. So as you consume, they say knowledge is power. You start to make different choices, and with that, your business can either go in the wrong direction or the right direction. I like to say you are one choice away from losing your freedom or your life or your most valuable relationship, but you're also one choice away from taking your business to the next level. And I think making the decision to not only work in your business but on your business is one of those choices, or one of those things that you cannot get enough of. So continue to learn like you'll live forever, continue to seek, and we will continue to introduce you to the people that are out there changing the way that real estate is bought and sold across America.